Thanks for joining us today, guys. Today we are joined by Dr. Amanda to share a little bit about her perspective and her insights and everything she's done with NFA money. So excited for her to share. Amanda, without any further ado, you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hey, Liam, thanks for having me on. I am Dr. Amanda. I'm known as the money healer because I love to help people heal their relationship to money. I've seen so many entrepreneurs get stuck in very specific unconscious beliefs about money that keep them in this kind of sabotage state where they'll, have some big breakthroughs and then reach their money set point and sabotage. And I just kept seeing such similar patterns for entrepreneurs. And for me, I had a lot of money blocks when I started. And so creating this company where I get to help people break through those money blocks is what I do in NFA, no fucking around money.
How did you get involved in money and decide that, helping people with money was, the direction for you to go?
Yeah. So, I think every entrepreneurial journey is a hero's journey or a heroine's journey. And for me, it was definitely that way. I had like massive downfall. So really started for me one night when I was on the floor crying. I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair and my next relationship wasn't working. So he was moving out of this house that we had together. And so I'm staring out at this empty basement and I had spent the day on Craigslist looking for places to live for me and my 3 kids, and I couldn't afford anything. And, I was really facing that moment of like, oh my God, am I going to be homeless? Am I going to have to live in like a studio apartment with all these other college kids who were like 15 years younger than me? And I was scared and I felt really alone. And I had this moment where I just sat up and I thought, no one's coming to save me. And what's the common factor here? It's me. I was like scanning my life and scanning my relationships and going, I'm the common denominator. And so I really decided in that moment, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to change who I am so I can have healthier relationships and make more money. I had been seeing this free counselor and she had, talked me into going on food stamps, and I had a lot of shame around it. And so I was just really at this bottom point. And because I was really busy already, I decided I'm going to just start listening to podcasts. And I looked for relationship podcasts. And so it started with this relationship transformation. And I just listened to them on double speed, like, taking my kids to school, washing the dishes, walking between my classes, going to teach a class. I would be like listening to podcasts on double speed and just digesting and saturating my brain with all of this amazing information that I had never heard anywhere else. And I had this awareness that most of the podcasts were done by coach type people. And I thought, maybe I want to be a coach. And, the way that I think the universe works in really, it's really quantum physics ways, but it felt very magical. It was like at the same time, we had a whole bunch of professors leaving our department because we had this national news kind of like scandal fallout, professors leaving, super stressed. And I just was like, I don't want to be a professor anymore, which is what I was on track for, earning my PhD. And so I decided I'm going to finish my program because I loved the research that I was doing. And once I get my PhD, I'm going to take the leap into entrepreneurship. And in that first year, I went 6 figures. So that was, that's the long and short story of it.
What was the subject matter of what you were, looking to go professor and your research?
Yeah. So my PhD's in sociology and I have a graduate certificate in women and gender studies. So a ton of research on masculinity, gender, crime. I ended up doing life history interviews with incarcerated men. So I'd spend like 4 hours on average with these men talking about their life histories where they had spent 18 years on average in prison and were gang involved, and, just looking at their stories of trauma and transformation and flipping the script and seeing men as victims instead of as these like super predators that we often make them out to be. And so it was really powerful to tie that into coaching where, these guys had some of the like movie, like horrible, violent histories, like, things that had been done to them and then things that they had done. And I just watched their transformation and it was all really powerfully mindset work, like for them to come out of that and start to change their lives had a lot to do with them seeing themselves in a new way. And so it was amazing to be able to map that onto coaching, with a different population of people and see how powerful mindset is.
As you went into coaching, did you always know it was going to be around this money theme, or did that slowly evolve over time?
It was definitely an evolution. So I started with relationship stuff, and I thought I was going to be a relationship coach. And in that, on that journey, I ran into a guy who was following one of my main mentors now, who does values work. And I realized that I didn't have wealth building on my value system, so I was in this workshop crying and like feeling really less than everyone around me, because everyone else had paid like $5,500 to get into this program, which for me at the time was like, more than a quarter of my annual income. And I was like, I felt like I had to do work study to be here. And there's just so much better than me. And the coach came over and he was talking to me and he's like, well, where's wealth building on your values? I'm like, what do you mean? You can just put wealth building on your values and your life will change. And so I started to learn that process. And, I started to implement certain wealth building strategies. And as I was going out in the world to do some relationship coaching, all of the networking events that I would go to, of course, it's entrepreneurs who are there. And so I started working with entrepreneurs, and I would have everyone do a money story, because that's something I was working on at the time. And I saw how much that was related to their relationship with themselves and relationships in general, and then the relationship with their business. And so it just evolved into helping people have really powerful breakthroughs with their money story and their relationship to money. And that translated so well into working with entrepreneurs. So it shifted from, relationship to entrepreneurs to a focus on money, because money is the outer expression of everything that's going on within. And it really blocks, entrepreneurs with sales fears and imposter syndrome and just all these things that keep entrepreneurs really stuck from breaking through to the next level in their business.
So at this time, if I'm following correctly, we were making about 20 grand a year. We've got 3 kids and we're going into entrepreneurship full bore. Is that about right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And first year you do 6 figures, right? So, a 5X of salary. As you have the cash flow coming in, right? What was your mindset of where you put it?
I was very much focused on wealth building. So I would either reinvest it into my business or savings or investments. I was very minimalist. I didn't have a fancy car or anything of the sort. And I really kept my expenses low and bootstrapped a lot of my business building. And so it was like, I'm going to save every penny I can, put it into my business to keep growing it. And then I created what I call a money magnet account. So I had 3 months of living money saved up, and then I kept adding in money to my investments and up leveled it every quarter. And so I just kept accelerating my wealth and having, the way that works is that when you're not in this freak out mode, when you're building a business, you can attract more money your way more easily. And so I started to learn all those dynamics and implement them.
Let's talk a little bit about where you were and kind of where you started, right? And then would love for you to share kind of your 3 steps and kind of how you approach things today, right? I'm curious kind of where you started. You were obviously putting it in different buckets, and you've probably refined that, I would imagine, over time, but kind of curious for what that journey looked like for you.
Yeah, I would say I don't know that I actually have refined it that much over time, because it works really well. So, of course, I've invested in different things, but I allocate the money that I reinvest into my business a little bit differently, but the system is all the same and my steps are all the same, because it works, with myself and with all the people I've worked with. These systems work. I love to create systems and strategies that are timeless, because they're based on universal principles and, values systems and zone of genius work. And so it's, for me, it's a lot about up-leveling what I know about human behavior and magnetism and, quantum physics-based stuff like law of attraction and universal principles and things like that. You implement those, and you become a money magnet. And I know it sounds woo-woo sometimes, and it's very scientific based.
Gotta love the woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is coming to you and saying like, hey, where do I start? What are some of those key principles in terms of, what did you determine how much went back into the business, and what was the structure for figuring out, what would be useful or efficient in that, right? Versus it sounds like you've rainy day fund and then you have investments, right? And did investments go into stocks? Did they go into other things? Like, what made sense for you?
Yeah, I was very strategic about learning from masters that were doing it, been there, done that type of people. So I just started learning everything I can. So I'd say for someone who's starting out, of course you want to be reinvesting into your business, because that's going to end up being an incredible asset. There's different ways to make money. One of them is to work really hard for your money. Another way is to have your money make money for you. The more money that you can have your business accumulate over time, the more opportunities you have to invest and then create different passive streams of income. And so I always took that perspective of, as I scaled my business, okay, I invest more and more and more and more, and I allocate a certain amount to my business and a certain amount to investments. And, that question, like what to invest in, I think that's going to be very unique, dependent on the person. Like, how old are you? How many people they have in your family? What's your risk level? That's going to depend on your age, and so there's certain things like that. I think the number one thing that most people struggle with and make the mistake on is that they don't start the habit of saving and investing. And because they think, oh, I've got to pay all this stuff off before I start investing. And so I took an opposite approach where I was like, okay, I'm going to continuously be paying off my, quote unquote debts. I don't like to think of them as debts. I always think of them as investments in myself, and people loaned me money, investing in me, that kind of thing, because it's like a mindset thing. I think people get freaked out by debt. And so, paying those off strategically while also building up those accounts, because when you're building a business, if you have no cushion, you're going to go into a fight, flight, freeze mode, because survival is one of the greatest threats that there can be. And so if you don't have any money saved up in your business, you're going to, when you get into that moment of like, oh my God, I don't know where the next dollar is coming from, you're going to freak out. And then what happens is you send out a very repellent money energy. It's like, if you think of it in the dating world, it's like if you're chasing someone desperately, that you're the last person they want, right? Money's the same way. You're just in a relationship with money. So if you're freaked out about money, it's going to be repelling away from you. So you want to create a situation where you feel secure and safe with money.
You mentioned the cushion in the business. What would your recommendation be to, entrepreneurs who might be listening, and what that cushion should be and how you calculate it?
I would say that it's 3 to 6 months of operating costs. I always have 3 to 6 months. The most successful businesses have 6 months to a year of operating costs. And a lot of people will think, well, that's crazy. You could be investing all of that money. But like I'm saying, it creates an attractor magnet. And then when things like COVID happen or different, situations come up, you're not going to have to go into freak out mode and make decisions that are reactive.
As we go back to, you started investing, what was the first investment that you made once you were, pulling in six figures?
Well, I started investing long before six figures. So actually, it was amazing. My first stock portfolio was made a 700% return. And I just learned everything I could. And I didn't hire anyone else. I learned and I listened and I paid attention. And so I started investing. And the first thing I bought actually was Match stock. So that went up, and I was a sociologist. So I would think about social trends and, apply what I knew there mixed with what other people were saying and what I was reading about. So it was like I invested in NVIDIA and, and it's just some stocks that went crazy. So in my first couple of years, I had a 700% return, which was phenomenal. I didn't have a lot of money to invest, yet it gave me the seed money, and I just kept reinvesting that money. So instead of taking it out and spending it on a car or something fancy and fabulous that a lot of people do, because that's not really a value on building wealth. You don't have a value on building wealth if you just want to spend all the money you make. That really, then what you have a value on is an opulent lifestyle, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna build my wealth and I'm gonna keep reinvesting in. So I was able to just keep turning that money into more money.
You mentioned a couple questions ago about passive income. What's the relationship in your mind, right? Obviously, investing is a big bucket, right? You're talking about picking specific stocks, having the appreciation, earning a nice return there versus passive income. What's the relationship there in your mind, and how should people think about it when they're approaching investing?
For me, I like to think about both passive income in terms of, when you're having your money make money for you and you want to have escalation of risk. Like I have, IUL accounts, like index universal life accounts, like life insurance. And then I have stocks and I have crypto and I have, IPOs, and I have different investments and different amounts of money in those investments based on level of risk and creating diversity. Passive wise, the main goal is to have a lifestyle where passive income is paying for everything, so that you can choose exactly what you want to do with your time. So, when I think about investment and I think about my business, I also construct around creating passive streams of income. So I go, and business is interesting because for me, I don't ever want to have a passive business where I'm not involved in it because I love what I'm doing. So it's not like I'm wanting to build a business that I sell off because I'm building a business I love and I'm in my zone of genius doing the things I enjoy. So, when I think of passive income in my business, I'm thinking like, digital courses and books and things like that can somewhat passively sell and that you can scale. And so I think about passive income in that way in my business. For investments, I think about how do you have investments that create money for you over time. And then, you create an exit strategy where you decide when you want to exit that investment.
As we go back to, we'll say, food stamps to successful entrepreneur, what was the one thing that was most impactful for you in getting from A to B on that journey?
Man, one thing. So many things. That's a good question because there were so many shifts. I think the thing that was most impactful was realizing that it's possible for anyone to do something like that. When I started on that journey, it very quickly it became my goal to create a 6-figure business and then keep upscaling to there on my way to 7 figures. It's like when I was on food stamps before I really started learning about coaching and mindset and different things like that, that was just inconceivable to me that you could start your own business and do what you love and make money doing it. And so I think probably one of the biggest lessons was, there are rules to the game of life. And if you know them, it gets a lot easier. It doesn't feel like you have to be stuck in survival mode and wishing, hoping, wondering that like there were answers out there. Like there actually are answers out there.
How much do you think your background in sociology and human behavior kind of played into, right? Because you talked a lot about your mindset shift, right, and how you thought about things to kind of get you, through that transition.
Yeah, I would say that I really truly believe for everybody that your life is a series of puzzle pieces being put together, getting you where you are. And so I look at all the puzzle pieces coming together. Like I was raised fundamentalist Christian and then, going into sociology and became like a pretty hardcore feminist sociologist and then moved into coaching. So, you go from like, a certain way of thinking in fundamentalist Christianity to thinking about like macro oppression and systems in that way in sociology, then they're going to like, oh, you are the creator of your reality in coaching, and all of the relationship upheavals I've had along the way and all, just all the things I've gotten to learn have all played into who I am as a coach now. And so, I'd say sociology, interestingly, it's like the skill set that the process of earning your PhD gives you, when you're at like a prestigious institution. I mean, I was in grad school for 7 years. I taught 2,500 students. I was putting together a lecture every 2 days, so it's like lecture, 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 and knowing how to piece together information in a way that makes sense to people. And I mean, it taught me how to be good under pressure. It taught me how to construct lessons for digital courses. It taught me how to be good at podcast interviews and YouTubing and all the things that I do now. And so I would have never thought that that's where it was going to lead me, but it really cultivated this love of teaching. Like, I mean, I loved my students and I just had so much fun teaching. I was winning awards and I just enjoyed it so much. And so it gave me that spark of inspiration of going, oh, I know that I love to create new ideas in people's minds. And so I'd say that in that way, that is probably the biggest gift that it gave me.
Fascinating from my perspective, right? Because you talk about your journey and what you've accomplished is amazing and remarkable, right? And I'm sure if you took a step out and you looked at it from a sociologist perspective, the systematic oppression and the constraints, some self-imposed, some systematic, right, that are put on people that were in your position. It's rare that you see someone break through and sustain, right? You sometimes see some flash in the pan, takes a couple of years and then fall off, right? But to make actual true change is super rare, right? And so you're almost your own case study, right, in this transformation that's occurred, right, to help get you where you are today, which I think is really cool to see from an outside perspective.
Yeah, thank you. And you're so right. I think that was something that was challenging to overcome in sociology, where it's like, oh, I'm a first gen college student, Native American, then became a single mom. Like in sociology world, like everything is against me, like it's not likely that I'm going to succeed. And so I think, my company name being NFA, and that's like my whole mantra, and people know me that way. It's like, I've always been a little bit rebellious. So that helps. I'm kind of an outlier in those ways. And the fun thing is that anyone can be. I don't care what your starting point is. It might take you a little bit more to get to the top because, we're not going to pretend that everybody's at the same starting point. That is absolutely not true. Yet everyone can get to the top if you choose to take steps every day and learn and grow and keep going. So, like I always talk to people about decide, commit, and take NFA action. And then your success is inevitable over time. You might take a little longer than some people to get there. That's okay, but you'll get there if you just decide and commit and take daily action.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest takeaway for folks, right? Is like anything is possible, right? And you know, old mantra, putting your mind to it, right? It's not entirely accurate, right? Like there is tough change that needs to happen to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Granted, being a well-educated white male, me giving that advice is nowhere near as strong, right? As someone like you giving the advice. And
Yeah.
so it's great to see, right? To be able to help these people lift and pull out of, a place they feel stuck in their life. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Really cool with what you're doing. Um, what's the most exciting thing that you're working on today?
I only do things I enjoy doing now. So, I teach people how to live in their zone of genius and create from their zone of genius because it creates magnetism. And so it's like, I'm getting better and better at delegating, which has been a process. And so, as I make drop ad lists. So anytime I put on my drop list, I put the things that I don't enjoy doing. And I'm like, when am I going to delegate this as fast as possible? And on the ad list, it's all the things I enjoy doing. And so, that list just gets stacked more in the direction of doing stuff that I enjoy. So, I'm building a YouTube channel. I've had a podcast that I'm actually reawakening because I've had a lot of people be like, what? We want your podcast back. And like anything that's in the teaching world, like speaking and being on other people's podcasts, I've been on over 150 podcasts, and I love bringing information to people to help them change their reality, because you could hear one idea on the show today that has you spark something that changes your entire rest of your life. And to me, that is what I'm born to do, is inspire people. And so it's like, I love any opportunity that I get to do that, writing books, YouTube, podcasts. I have a course that I just launched to reprogram your money mindset. And so, anything that's related to teaching transformational tools to help people feel really good in their lives and love what they're doing and make more money doing it.
That's awesome. What's the best way for the listeners to be able to connect with you, Amanda?
If they type in NFA money in Google, they'll find all kinds of stuff. So, I love Instagram, and I'm on there quite a bit. YouTube, I release videos every week. I have a talk show. If they want my NFA money formula, just go to nfamoneyformula.com. And we didn't talk about it here, so they can be surprised by what it is. NFA money formula, but that's a free, instructional video with a cheat sheet download. And if people implement that on a consistent basis, they'll watch themselves change their brain from the inside out and rewire it for success. And I use it on myself. I use it with all my clients, and it works miracles. So go to nfamoneyformula.com and they'll be able to download that there.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time today and the insights you shared.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.